The stars above the moon, Alaris, always glowed gently. The sky was calm, painted with soft colors from nearby nebulae. Life moved slowly on Alaris, where the peaceful insectoid race called the Marin had lived for centuries. They were farmers, builders, singers. They didn't believe in war. No. Their claws were meant for planting, not for fighting. The Marin believed the galaxy had enough kindness to protect those who gave without asking. But that belief was about to be shattered. Early morning, as the two suns of Alaris began to rise, a dark shadow appeared in the sky. It wasn't a cloud. It was a fleet, cold, black, and heartless. The Varnock had arrived. They were a brutal species known for taking what they wanted. They didn't come for trade. They didn't send a message. They simply began to destroy. Without warning, the sky lit up in flames. Fire fell upon the crystal farms and learning towers. The ground shook as energy blasts ripped through the soil. The Maran ran, holding their children, guiding the elderly, screaming in voices no one heard. The Varnock didn't care who they struck. They destroyed homes, temples, and archives. They had no interest in peace or reason. They only wanted to dominate. Elder Shelu, one of the oldest Marin, stumbled through a collapsed dome. She carried a small transmitter, one of the few left from the time the Marin had helped early human explorers. Years ago, the Marin had offered humanity safe passage through asteroid fields, maps of hidden fuel sources, and safe shelter during long star travels. That connection had been brief, but meaningful. Now, with shaking claws, Shelu activated the device and whispered in a trembling voice to anyone listening, "Please help us. Alaris is burning." The message was weak, carried by fragile waves of hope. Most stations in the galaxy ignored it. The larger empires looked away. No profit, no interest, no threat. It's just another forgotten moon being crushed by power. But on Earth, in a quiet section of the United Terran Federation's orbital listening post, the message blinked to life on a dusty screen. Technician Leon Thomas was sipping recycled tea when he noticed the flicker. At first, he thought it was interference. But then he heard the voice, old, scared, soft, real. He leaned in closer and replayed it. Could hear explosions in the background, cries, collapse, his chest tightened. He ran the signal through. Translation filters. This is Alaris. Our people. We are being destroyed. Please help. The Maran, Leanne remembered them from training classes, peaceful allies, historical friends. A tiny race with no military, but a long memory of kindness. He didn't hesitate. He forwarded the signal straight to Fleet Command. Hours later, in the main war room of United Terran Fleet Command, Admiral Unia Ross stood in silence, watching. The footage gathered from fragments of the transmission. The room was quiet. Round her, generals, advisors, and ministers whispered in confusion. They hadn't heard that name Alaris for years. But Unia remembered. She turned to the others. When Earth had no maps, they gave us theirs. When we had no food, they shared theirs. Now they are under attack. The galaxy looks away. She paused, then added firmly, "But we are not the galaxy. We are Earth." Some questioned the risk. Others asked what reward there was, but Unia raised her hand. This isn't about reward. It's about debt. And it's about who we are. That night, the order was signed. The fleet would move. Quietly, but with purpose. The Marin had sent a cry into the dark, and Earth, though distant and small in the eyes of the greater empires, had heard it. In the quiet heart of Earth's capital, the command tower of the United Terran Fleet stood tall like a shining blade reaching toward the sky. Inside, the Situation Room buzzed with low voices, flickering screens, and heavy silence. A message had shaken the room, a cry from the stars, a call for help from the Marin. Admiral Unia Ross sat at the head of the long table, her eyes sharp but tired. She had led fleets through storms and solved crises no one remembered now. This message from Alaris was different. The words were simple, but the pain behind them cut deep. Uni replayed the message one more time, letting everyone in the room hear it. This is Alaris, our people. You're being destroyed. Please help. The recording ended. No music, no images, just silence. Una stood slowly and looked at her. Officers, we owe them, she said clearly. General Hart, a man who always measured risk, leaned forward. Admiral, the Marin are not part of our protected zones. We'd have to cross several neutral borders, maybe even provoke the Varnock. Unia's voice was steady. Do you remember who gave us the original star maps through Sector 12? The Marin did. When we were lost, they guided us. They never asked for anything. They helped because it was right. Captain Layla Norin, head of Earth's medical corps, nodded. It once saved one of our research crews stranded without oxygen. I was a cadet then. I've never forgotten. If we go, another officer said quietly, we might make enemies we're not. Ready for? Unia's voice grew firmer. Let them know we are not afraid to stand beside those who once stood beside us. The room fell silent again. Within hours, Earth's response was in motion. High-orbit stations lit up with activity. The core of Earth's Space Force, known as the United Terran Fleet, was activated under full humanitarian protocol. The mission wasn't to conquer, but to protect. It wasn't to show power, but to show who they were. In the massive shipyard around Mars, technicians raced against time. Ships were checked, refueled, and loaded with aid supplies. The flagship Unity's Edge, a symbol of Earth's values, received a special package, an old diplomatic scroll, signed by both human and Marin leaders decades ago. It was a reminder. Earth remembers its friends. Captain Elias Dorn walked through the command deck of Unity's Edge. He was known as a calm leader, someone who listened before he spoke. The crew respected him deeply. He stood before them now, his voice firm, yet filled with warmth. We are not going out there to wage war, he said. We are going to honor a friendship. We're going to protect a people who once helped us without asking anything in return. That is who we are. That is what this fleet stands for. Applause echoed across the ship. Back on Earth, citizens watched the announcement with surprise and pride. Many had never heard of the Marin, but when they saw the recordings, images of small, gentle beings trying to protect their young from firehearts were moved. Messages of support flooded in. Volunteers asked to join. Supplies were donated. Across schools and homes, people lit candles. Leaving them by windows in silent prayer for the Marin, children drew pictures of Earth ships helping alien friends. Old veterans spoke of times when they had seen kindness in the stars. For a moment, Earth felt united not by fear, but by compassion. Far above, the fleet prepared to launch. Rows of sleek starships, carriers, medical vessels, and humanitarian drones lined up in the silence of space. Their engines glowed blue and white, humming gently like a distant heartbeat. The mission was clear. Cause was just. Admiral Ross watched from her command ship, eyes steady. She opened a secure channel to all vessels. This is Admiral Una. Ross, you carry the hopes of our planet. You carry the memory of a promise made long ago. The Marin reached out, and Earth answered. Let the galaxy know we are not silent. We are not forgetful. We are the fleet that comes when others look away. One by one, the ships jumped into faster-than-light travel, their lights streaking through the stars like arrows of purpose. Behind them, Earth watched in silence and waited. Far above the Earth, in the cold silence of space, the stars stood still. But near the orbiting shipyards, everything was alive. Sparks flew from welding arms. Drones zipped between decks. Giant hangar bays opened one by one, releasing Earth's most advanced ships into formation. The fleet was ready. The Unity's Edge, Earth's flagship, floated at the center like a guardian star. Its long silver frame shone against the black sky, its hull etched with the emblem of Unity, a human hand and an alien hand reaching for each other. Captain Elias Dorn stood on the command bridge, his hands behind his back, his eyes calm but focused. Status, he asked softly. All ships report green. Jump systems charged. Crews are ready, his second-in-command replied. Elias nodded. He looked out at the massive fleet carriers, medical ships, diplomatic cruisers, and drone transports. This wasn't a war fleet, but it was powerful. It was built for protection, healing, and defense. And today, It had a mission that meant more than any past operation. "Begin launch sequence," Elias said. "It's time." Across the fleet, engines roared to life with a deep hum. Blue lights danced along the metal frames. Inside the ships, thousands of crew members took their positions. Pilots adjusted controls. Engineers checked systems. Medical officers prepared supplies. Volunteers secured food and blankets for the refugees they hoped to find. Back on Earth, billions watched the live stream. Families huddled around screens. Old veterans stood with their hands over their hearts. Children waved at the sky, even though they couldn't see the ships. They knew something important was happening. On one small screen, the teacher showed her students the picture of the Marin gentle insectoid creatures with soft shells and glowing eyes. The children asked why someone would hurt them. The teacher smiled sadly. "Sometimes people forget kindness, but Earth doesn't." The ships moved in perfect silence, forming a wide arrow across the stars. Then, at once, they vanished, jumping into faster-than-light travel like streaks of light breaking the sky. Earth's fleet had left orbit. The journey through hyperspace was long but smooth. On board Unity's Edge, Captain Dorn walked among his crew. He didn't give orders from a chair. He walked, listened, encouraged. He knew many of them had never been this far from home before. He knew they were nervous, Young communications officer named Mia stopped him. "Sir, may I ask something?" He turned kindly. "Of course." "Why did they help us, the Marin? I mean?" "Back then, we were strangers." Elias paused. He looked out the window, watching the swirling patterns of hyperspace. They believed in peace, didn't ask for anything. They just helped. "And now it's our turn." Mia nodded slowly. She felt a strange warmth in her heart. It was more than duty, it was honor. Elsewhere on the ship, the medical bay was being prepared for unknown injuries. Captain Layla Norin had brought extra supplies, medicine for burns, nutrition packs, trauma kits. Her hands were steady, but her eyes betrayed worry. She had seen suffering before on frontier colonies, during space plagues. But this was different. The Marin were innocent. They had no weapons. And they were attacked simply because they were weak. "We will not let them die alone," she whispered as she packed another crate. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic chamber of the Unity's Edge, an old scroll lay open on a table. It was the original agreement between Earth and the Marin, written in both languages. Elder Shalu's signature was at the bottom. Her writing looked gentle, like a song. The scroll was a symbol of friendship, forgotten by most, but remembered. By a few hours passed, then the alert sounded. Approaching Alaris system. Fleet prepare to exit jump. Captain Dorn returned to the bridge. The swirling stars slowed and steadied. In front of them, the Alaris moon appeared, but no one smiled. Smoke rose from the surface. Structures were broken. Fields burned. The land looked lifeless and gray. It was too quiet. "Scan for life signs," Elias ordered. Moments later, the crew confirmed there were survivors. Small clusters hiding underground, injured, weak, afraid. Elias closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "Send rescue teams. Bring everyone home." As the first Earth ships descended to the surface, medical drones followed. Aid crates were dropped. Translators were activated. And for the first time in weeks, the Marin heard a voice that didn't bring pain. "This is Earth. We heard your cry. We are here." The land of Alaris was once filled with soft winds, glowing trees, and gentle songs sung by the Marin as they worked. But now, the air was filled with smoke and silence. Fields were black. Crystals that once danced in sunlight now lay shattered. The moon had become a graveyard of kindness. Earth's ships landed gently. They didn't come with noise or threat, they came with care. Large aid ships unfolded ramps as Earth soldiers stepped out, not with guns, but with open hands. Medics, engineers, translators, and rescue drones spread out across the land. They moved quickly, but with respect. Captain Elias Dorn stepped down. From Unity's Edge with a heavy heart, His boots touched the cracked soil, and the first thing he saw was a broken toy, one of the Moran's floating shells. A child's game now half buried in ash. His chest tightened. This wasn't just destruction, it was a message from the Varnock. A message that said, "You are nothing." But Earth would answer with something stronger. "You are not alone." From the caves, the first Marin appeared, thin, trembling, eyes glowing weakly in the dust. They watched the humans carefully, unsure. Were they another enemy? Captain Dorn knelt slowly, removed his helmet, and placed it on the ground. He opened his hands and said in a calm, kind voice, "We came to help. We remember you." The translator beside him clicked and hummed, repeating his words in the soft, clicking language of the Maron. A small child, no taller than a human's knee, walked forward. Her name was Tai. She held a cracked stone in her claws, not to fight, but to protect her younger brother hiding behind her. Captain Dorn did not move. The child looked into his eyes. She saw no anger, no fire. She saw something she hadn't seen since the day the sky fell. Safety. She dropped the stone. In that moment, dozens of Marins stepped out from the caves. Some limped, some cried, some fell to their knees in exhaustion. The Earth's team rushed forward. Medics began treatment. Water was passed around. Blankets were wrapped over shivering shoulders. Drones brought food that the Marin hadn't tasted in days. Elder Shalou, bruised and weak, was brought out gently by her people. She looked at the sky, where Earth's ships floated like protective stars, and tears fell from her wide, tired eyes. "You came," she whispered. One of Earth's doctors, Captain Layla Norin, took her hand and said softly, "Of course we did. You helped us once, we never forgot." Elder Shalou nodded slowly. "The stars did, but you remembered." All over Alaris, the aid continued. Engineers repaired broken shelters. Earth's power units brought warmth to the underground. Tunnels. Translator devices allowed songs to be sung again. Small moments of peace returned like rain in a long drought. News of Earth's missions spread across the galaxy. Civilian channels picked up the broadcasts. Videos showed humans helping the wounded, children laughing again, old structures being repaired. The message was simple but powerful. Earth had not come to fight. It had come to heal, but not everyone was happy in deep space. Aboard the Varnak flagship Corvish, General Vecna watched the footage with cold eyes. His officers stood beside him, confused and angry. "They do not fear us," one said. "They should," Vecna growled. Earth should have stayed on its little blue world. But Earth had not. It had crossed borders, crossed fear, and stepped into the fire not to dominate, but to protect. Back on Alaris, Captain Dorn stood at the edge of a cliff, overlooking the valley where repair camps now buzzed with life. The Marin had started planting against mall seeds in clean soil. A group of Marin children played nearby, their wings fluttering as they laughed. He smiled quietly. Beside him, Captain Norin joined him. "We can't undo what was done," she said softly. "No," Dorn replied. "But we can show them that someone cared enough to try." Night fell on Alaris. The stars returned to the sky. But this time they didn't look so cold. They looked like witnesses. Silent, glowing witnesses to a truth. Even in the darkness, someone had come. Someone had heard the cry, and Earth had answered, not with weapons, but with compassion. The valley of Elarus slowly began to heal. With Earth's help, the broken domes were rising again. The crystal farms showed signs of green. Marin children ran between repair tents, their wings buzzing with laughter. The fear in their eyes had started to fade, but peace on Alaris was like a candle in the wind, fragile, flickering, too easy to blow out. It was early morning when the warning sirens rang. Above the moon, space trembled. Large spiked vessels, painted in shades of black and rust. The Varnak were back. On Unity's edge, Captain Elias Dorn watched the radar. His jaw tightened. "How many?" "5 war cruisers," the officer replied. "Twice as large as our medical ships. Fully armed." Captain Layla Norin stood beside him. They're not here to talk. Captain Dorn didn't answer at first. He looked through the clear viewplate at the enemy ships that now hovered in Alaris's orbit like vultures, returning to a feast. They're here to erase what we've rebuilt, he finally said. But we won't let them, Admiral Unia. Ross appeared on the main screen. She had just arrived with the second wave of Earth ships, carrying backup supplies and humanitarian personnel. I've opened a communication channel, she said. Let's see if they have ears. On screen, the Varnock commander appeared. His skin was rough and pale, eyes like frozen knives. His voice was deep and sharp. You are trespassing, he hissed. This world belongs to no one. It is ours. To break, Admiral Ross stood tall. Her voice was calm, but full of steel. This world belongs to its people. You attacked those who could not defend themselves. That is not strength, that is cowardice. The Varnock laughed. Ptt. You think kindness makes you strong? You will erase the Marin? And you too? But Ross didn't flinch. You can fire your weapons, she said quietly. But no, this Earth didn't come here to fight. We came to protect. And if you choose war, you'll only prove what kind of monster the galaxy already knows you. The channel closed. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, something strange happened. Inside the Varnock fleet, one of the smaller ships turned away. Then another. Confusion spread among their ranks. On Alaris, signals came in transmissions from the defecting Varnock captains. We didn't agree with this, one of them said. We're told this was a military outpost, not a home. The Marin helped. Our scouts last year, another voice said. We remember. Inside Earth's control room, Captain Dorn looked at the display in disbelief. They're breaking ranks. Admiral Ross leaned forward. They still have some who remember mercy. The lead Varnock warcruiser remained in position, refusing to retreat. But now it was alone. Its own fleet had split. Some turned off their weapons. Others left the system. Then slowly the flagship turned and jumped into hyperspace. The danger. Passed like a shadow pulled away by light. Earth's fleet did not fire a single shot. It had defended without violence, protected without destruction, and won a battle without making war. On the surface, the Marin gathered under the stars. Elder Shelu, wrapped in a new warming cloth provided by Earth's medics, stood before the people. Once we believed the stars had forgotten us, she said softly. But they didn't. Earth came, not with fire, but with heart. She raised a glowing seed in her hand. Let this be planted so our children will know. Kindness is not weakness. It is the strongest force in the galaxy. Beside her, Captain Dorn placed his hand on his chest. And Earth will always answer the call of those who once helped us. That night, the valley lit up not with fire, but with song. Marin and humans sat side by side, sharing stories, food, and quiet smiles. Drones flew above, recording everything. Faces of hope, the hands of healing, the future of peace, and across the stars other worlds watched. Not just the violence that had almost happened, but the peace that had taken its place. The news spread faster than light, across colonies, stations, and quiet corners of the galaxy. Word reached everyone Earth had stood up. Not with guns, not with invasion, but with courage and compassion. On the broken moon of Alaris's Earths, fleet had protected the weak, helped the wounded, and made the Varnock retreat without firing a single weapon. People watched the broadcast again and again. The images were powerful. Human engineers helping rebuild crystal farms, Earth doctors treating injured Marin children, and peaceful soldiers carrying food, not weapons. One photo showed a small Marin girl holding a human medic's hand. That image was now everywhere, on news channels, on banners, on school walls. A galaxy that once looked away had now turned its eyes toward Alaris, in the neutral spaceport of Veltrax 9. A group of smaller species, long ignored and pushed aside by the larger powers, held an emergency meeting. Leaders of the Yeli, the Dren, the small but wise Bomi, and others gathered in a circle. These were species who had no fleets, no protection, and no voice in the great galactic councils. But after seeing what Earth did, they felt something rise inside them. Hope. We've always hidden, said Toma of the Yeli, his blue skin glowing softly. But Earth did not hide. We cannot fight like the big empires, said Neria of the Dren, but maybe we can stand together. They formed a new alliance that day. They called it the Guardian Accorda, promised to protect the weak, defend the peaceful, and support those who stand for justice. Earth was named as the first founding guardian. Back on Alaris, the rebuilding continued. The Marin had begun to smile again. Their songs returned to the night. Small lights now danced in the air, powered by Earth's clean energy. The broken moon was no longer silent. Captain Elias Dorn walked through a new garden being planted near the valley. Marin children flew above him, giggling as they carried seeds to the soil. He smiled gently. A few weeks ago, this place was full of ash and tears. Oh, it was full of life. Captain Layla Norin stood beside him, holding a data tablet filled with medical reports. 57 cases healed, she said proudly. All thanks to the supplies we brought and the volunteers we trained. Elias looked at her. How are you holding up? She paused, then answered, tired, but happy. This is what we're meant to do, Elias. Not destroy planets. Protect them. Elder Shalou approached, her steps slow but steady. She carried a carved gift made from crystal and wood. She handed it to Elias. It is not much, she said, but it carries our song. When played, it sings the sound of Alaris. Elias took the gift with both hands, bowing his head respectfully. Thank you, Elder. I will keep it close. The gift was placed in the Unity's Edge bridge, beside the command screen, where every visitor would see it. Elsewhere, Admiral Unia Ross met with diplomats from nearby systems. They had come to speak, not to fight. The representative from the Zarin Empire, who once ignored the cries of the weak, now extended a hand. We saw what Earth did, he said honestly. You reminded us what honor looks like. Unia nodded. We didn't come to impress. We came because it was right, he bowed. Sometimes, doing what's right is the most impressive thing of all. The Guardian Accord sent its first official request. They asked Earth to continue its peacekeeping. Efforts not as a ruler, not as an empire, but as a guardian. Earth would help train medics, share its rebuilding tech, and send ships to protect the vulnerable when others looked away. Humanity, once seen as young and distant, was now a symbol of courage. In one broadcast, a young Bomi child said, when the stars turned dark, Earth lit a lamp. It was true. A galaxy full of fear and silence had seen something new, something bold, something beautiful. Not power, not weapons, compassion. The stars above Elaris shone bright, reflecting the new hope that had blossomed on the once broken moon. Earth's fleet had stayed longer than expected, not because of war, but because healing takes time. Captain Elias Dorn stood on a hill, overlooking the valley where the Marin were rebuilding their lives. Soft hum of machinery mixed with the gentle laughter of children playing under new sky domes. It was a different kind of victory. No weapons had been fired, no worlds conquered. Instead, Earth's fleet had become a symbol, a beacon of protection in a galaxy often filled with fear. Beside Elias stood Captain Layla Norin. She watched as Marin children taught human engineers how to fly small, glowing kites made from crystal shards. They teach us as much as we teach them, she said softly. Elias smiled. That's the way it should be. In the command room of Unity's Edge, Admiral Unia Ross received a message from the Guardian, Accord, the alliance of smaller species inspired by Earth's actions. They officially asked Earth to lead a new peacekeeping force, a fleet of Guardians, dedicated to protecting vulnerable worlds and standing against cruelty. Unia. Read the words aloud to her crew. Earth's fleet is no longer just ours. It belongs to all who seek peace. The room was quiet, then filled with soft applause. They had not joined this mission for glory. They had joined because it was right. Now their purpose was clear. That evening a ceremony was held under the stars. Marin elders sang ancient songs. Earth's crew shared stories of home and hope. Captain Dorn stepped forward and spoke to all gathered. We came because we heard a cry in the dark. We came because kindness is our greatest strength. This fleet is not just ships and soldiers. It is a promise. It's a promise that no one will face the darkness alone. Elder Shalou, now strong again, smiled and added, "The galaxy has many voices, but the loudest is the one that sings of friendship." As the ceremony ended, families both human and Merrent looked to the sky. The stars no longer seemed distant or cold. They were watching, alive with possibility. Back on Earth, people celebrated too. The story of the Merrent and Earth's fleet inspired songs, books, and lessons. Children learned that being strong meant standing up for others. Adults remembered the power of compassion. Far beyond, even former enemies began to change. The Varnock, shaken by the unity and courage they faced, started to question their ways. Some among them sought peace. Inspired by Earth's example, Captain Dorn stood once more on the bridge of Unity's edge as the fleet prepared to depart. He looked at the glowing gift from Elder Shalua, crystal carved with the Song of Alaris. It reminded him of why they had come. He turned to his crew. "We leave not as conquerors, but as guardians. The galaxy is wide and full of wonder and also danger. Wherever there is fear, wherever there is pain, Earth will answer the call." The ships lit their engines, the hum rising into a song of hope. One by one, they slipped into the stars, ready to face new challenges with courage and heart. And so, a new chapter began. Not of war, but of guardianship. Not of power, but of peace. Earth had arrived late to the stars, but when it came, it brought something the galaxy desperately needed. A fleet that fought not with weapons, but with kindness.